Do you know that an African princess single-handedly stopped Portugal, a European nation, during collonia era? Can you imagine walking into a room full of enemies, every eye on you, every heart hoping for your failure? A room where even a simple chair is a weapon of humiliation. In 1622, a woman named Nzinga Mbandi, princess of the Ndongo Kingdom in Central Africa, entered such a room. The Portuguese governor had deliberately given her no seat, expecting her to stand like a servant. But Nzinga did not bow. She motioned for one of her attendants to get down on hands and knees, and she sat proudly on their back, eye to eye with her so-called superiors. From that moment, they knew they were dealing with a leader who would never kneel. Nzinga's story begins in the late 16th century in the region we now call Angola. Born around 1583 into the royal family of Ndongo, she was trained not just as a princess, but as a warrior and diplomat. Her father, King Kiluwanji, raised her to understand politics, military strategy, and the importance of alliances in a time when European powers, especially the Portuguese, were tightening their grip on Africa's coasts to control the lucrative slave trade. When her brother, Ngola Mbandi, became king, Ndongo was under constant attack from Portuguese forces and their allies. Thousands were being captured and sold into slavery every year. The pressure was immense, and in desperation, King Mbandi sent Nzinga to negotiate with the Portuguese in Luanda in 1622. This meeting was where the legendary no-chair moment happened. Nzinga's defiance impressed even her enemies. She managed to negotiate a temporary peace treaty, gaining the release of some captives and halting Portuguese raids. But peace with colonial powers was never permanent, and Nzinga knew it. Soon after, her brother died under suspicious circumstances. Some say suicide, others whisper assassination. Regardless, Nzinga stepped forward to claim leadership, becoming Queen of Ndongo in 1624. In an era where women rulers were rare, she wore the crown with the heart of a warrior and the mind of a tactician. The Portuguese expected her to submit. Instead, Nzinga transformed her kingdom into a fortress of resistance. She moved her capital westward to the kingdom of Matamba, where she built a new base of power. From there, she forged alliances, including with the Dutch, who were enemies of Portugal, and trained her army in European firearms while keeping the fierce combat traditions of her people alive. Nzinga didn't just fight battles, she waged psychological war. She welcomed runaway slaves and even Portuguese-trained African soldiers into her forces, giving them freedom in exchange for loyalty. This not only strengthened her army, but also weakened Portuguese control. For decades, she launched raids, cut off Portuguese supply lines, and struck when they least expected it. The Portuguese called her stubborn, her people called her Mother of the Nation. She ruled in armor, led armies on horseback, and personally took part in negotiations, sometimes in peace, sometimes in blood. Her resilience paid off. Even when forced to sign treaties, Nzinga used them to buy time, rebuild her forces, and strike again. She was a master of playing her enemies against each other. For 37 years, she kept the Portuguese from fully conquering Ndongo and Matamba. By the time she was in her 60s and 70s, Nzinga was still riding into battle, earning respect across Central Africa. She died peacefully in 1663 at the age of about 80, an age few warriors, let alone rulers, reached in those times. Her death marked the end of an era, but her legend lived on. She was more than a queen. She was a symbol of resistance, a strategist who understood that freedom is never given. It is taken, guarded, and defended. And so, the woman who once refused to stand in the governor's presence stood forever in the pages of African history as the unshakable warrior queen who defied an empire. Our African ancestors were never lazy. Stand up on your feet and say no to defeat.